On this channel, we aim on covering a multitude of weird happenings on the internet, some old, some recent. Now, to keep from having a heavy whiplash from topic to topic, I thought it would make sense to cover something that had some form of tie to the last topic, kind of like a textbook of sorts. So, what could we be covering today that relates to Yandev in some way? Well, one thing about him that I couldn't really find a way to fit in the last video was his proposal for a sex license. He got into an argument about someone saying that his game was creepy because the characters were underage, probably referring to the side quest of getting panty shots for some reason. Eventually, the topic became the age of consent, where Yandev said he put some thought into the idea of what could replace the age of consent, like a machine that could scan a person's brain to determine how mentally developed they are, this being able to be used to tell if the person is ready for sex. And yeah, that can kind of sound suspicious already, but the way he decided to pitch it was, what if there was a sex test, and if you pass it, you get a sex license? Wouldn't that be better than having an age of consent? Needless to say, the way he worded it was pretty bad. The other person in the argument seemed to think this as well, saying, what if a 14-year-old passed that test? Well, that, ladies and gents, would probably make this 14-year-old a prime piece of real estate for today's topic, the MAP community. For those not aware, the Minor Attracted Person, or MAP community, is a group primarily made of people who believe being attracted to children is a normal thing. They essentially campaign for society to accept people who are attracted to children of any age, from kindergarten to high school. No child's left behind. Instead of seeing this attraction to children who are incapable of consenting as abnormal, they choose to see it as another sexual orientation, like being straight or gay. Now, if you're like me, you probably assume that the community refers to themselves as MAP so that their interests weren't tagged with the word pedophilia, kind of like NAMBLA. That, however, doesn't appear to be the case. There are a few tweets by MAPs saying that nobody chooses to be a pedophile, and that hating them is simply immoral, although there seem to be a few who get stirred when they're referred to as such. This is due to their common thought that pedophile isn't a blanket term for the people who are attracted to the underage. They've gone so far as to segregate this diverse sexuality, using terms such as infantophile, pedophile, hebephile, and ebipophiles. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that right. Odd enough, this community doesn't just consist of the stereotypical neckbeards trying to get their hands on some real-life lollies. They're actual teenagers who publicly consider themselves MAPs, male and female alike. Now, I can't say for myself if they were groomed into this mentality or they did it of their own free will, but they're just sort of there. The community itself just seemed to appear out of nowhere and grew largely in popularity around 2016 to 2017. One of the most relevant spawning grounds for them being Tumblr. As most are aware, Tumblr kind of imploded on itself, so naturally these Tumblr refugees set up shop on Twitter, not even making an attempt to hide their love for the underage, using tags such as MAP, no MAP, MAP positivity, the list goes on. If you do a search through these, you'll most likely come across the term antis. This mostly just refers to those who are against everything MAPs are for. You know, pretty much anyone who knows children lack the ability to consent. I mean, most children need a permission slip to even go on a field trip. If they can't consent to a trip to the zoo, how exactly are they supposed to consent to doing it like the Discovery Channel? Even the differentiation between MAPs and no MAPs is a bit unnerving. That alone can tell you that many of these MAPs have tried to get into a kid's pants at least once. I mean, what do you guys think? Should we normalize comparing children to olives? You know what an olive is, right? A food that isn't right, but people like to eat anyway? I'm sorry, we should probably get back on track before my opinions start spilling out. I mean, this is vaguely neutral, not clearly biased. Now, maps are nothing new. They've been a present issue for a while now. It's nothing groundbreaking, they've just always been there. The reason I bring it up in the year of our Lord 2020 is due to something that seems to support the notion that pedophilia is just becoming more and more normalized. On August 18th, Netflix posted the official trailer for a movie titled Cuties. The pitch for this movie has been changed at the time of me recording, probably in some attempt to sway the bad PR, yet still choosing to host it on their platform. I'll go ahead and read for you what it used to be instead. Amy, 11, becomes fascinated with a twerking dance crew. Hoping to join them, she starts exploring her femininity. defying her family's traditions. Combine that with the fact that Netflix labeled this as not suitable for those under 17, it really doesn't sit right. Now, Netflix is getting a lot of hot water for their decision to host the film, but it seems a bit counterproductive to me. I do agree the film shouldn't be hosted, but attacking only Netflix seems to take away from the fact that the film, hosted or not, still exists. Time was taken to film these underage girls twerking and dancing seductively over the span of presumably multiple takes. There was even an interview with the writer and director of the movie where she went on to say, "Today, when you are a woman, you're almost sure to have hundreds of thousands of viewers by being as sexual as possible. When you are 11, you don't understand what it means, but you see there is an admiration from a lot of people, so you want to imitate them. Not all of them do this, but still quite a lot. I see them on Instagram. Young girls of 13 years old pulling strings and being followed by 400,000 persons. So I definitely believe more of the blame should fall on people who put this film together rather than Netflix alone. And you know, the Danielle Cohns of the world on Instagram doing whatever it was she was talking about. I personally don't use Instagram anymore, so I barely even know what's on there myself. But don't get me wrong here. That doesn't mean Netflix shouldn't come out of this unscathed. That aside, it is pretty unnerving that there's just sympathy for pedos growing at an all-time high. And I'll be completely honest here. I'm not one of those a good pedo is a dead pedo kind of people. I do kind of hope for the best in some people, and I do think that if you're struggling with something, you do deserve to get some kind of help to get you through it. Now that being said, what made people think normalizing sexual relationships between an adult and minor was gonna help anything? The problem isn't that pedophiles aren't human and should be killed off. The problem is that you're going about helping them the wrong way. Instead of taking an everyone's different route, you should be giving them actual mental assistance. Pedophilia isn't a sexual orientation. MAPS aren't a branch of the LGBT. This is a defect of the mind. A defect that should be met with professional therapeutic help. Instead, you're just giving them more material to beat meat to. I can't seem to think of any other way to end this off, so I'm just gonna wrap this off with a grossly put together bow. Stop normalizing pedophilia. Seek professional help if you suffer from it. And screw Netflix in particular.
Fucking thing sucks!